Yes, guys, welcome back to another episode of Ball Talk with me, Lewis Bryon, and I am once again joined by our footballer Ken Charles. And England have just beat Switzerland in the quarterfinals of the Euros on penalties as well. You know, in history, that's not always been our strongest suit. So, what are your thoughts on it, Ken?
Yeah, well, I thought first and foremost the performance was a lot more convincing. Like, don't get me wrong, it was a tight game, but Switzerland are a good team. Like, they're definitely no bum, so it was always going to be a tight game. But I think the shape seemed to work better in terms of like how the players combined together, the chemistry, how we managed to get the best out of Saka on the right wing, Foden and Jude a couple of times in their more natural positions. So as a whole, I think there's a lot to build from and a lot more positive signs going through. It's not one of them ones where you've scraped through and you're thinking, but we were poor. Like, I think there's a lot of things to be optimistic about going into the semis.
Yeah, I agree, mate. And we'll go in a bit more detail on that in a bit. But I just want to talk about the pens, okay, first of all. So they all scored. Okay, all of the players that took them for England scored. They
Yeah,
looked comfortable. You know, it was high quality
yeah,
pens, and
mm-hmm.
I think what three of them who took it were under the age of 23 or are under the age of
Mm-hmm.
23. So you've got to really, first of all, just say hats off for the bravery and the courage in that
Yeah,
moment after the scrutiny and the poor performances that England have had building up to it to put your name forward and dispatch a pen like they all did. Really, I mean, Cole Palmer to take the first one. He's not got the best penalty record, has he? I think he missed four out of his last seven. So to take the first one in the quarterfinals of the Euros with England's history of the pens and sort of the scrutiny the media's been putting on them for poor performances, that's a big that's a big statement. That's a big mentality to have in it.
yeah. Like you said, England have never been the best at pens. The pen record, like I remember when Gary Neville was in the studio, they said he was involved in six and lost five. So it's not ever been England's strong suit. Plus the media pressure in general because we haven't been the best this tournament. Everyone knows what happened the last Euros as well when we lost in the final. So it's big pressure. But considering our penalty taker wasn't even on the pitch for five extra players to step
Yeah,
up and take penalties that good, it shows we've got depth in that area. Having said that, I was saying before the shootout, if you look at the guys lining up, you've got Tony who takes pens for his club, Saka who takes pens for his club, Palmer who takes pens for his club. So that straight away gives you and Jude Bellingham obviously a top player. So you do have confidence going into it,
yeah.
but penalties are always nervy. It just takes one miss to destabilize the whole thing. But yeah, they were all top, and especially Saka after what happened the last Euros. I know he's since gone on a really good record for Arsenal, but this would have been like the ultimate kind of test for his mentality again, because it was basically the same scenario, isn't it? Back in an England shirt in a shootout, can he dispatch? And to do it in that manner, you gotta give a lot of credit for the mental strength it takes to do that.
Yeah, mate, you have to give so much credit to Saka. Like you said, that would have stayed with him for what is it, 3 years now,
Yes,
regardless of him.
since then, yeah,
Yeah, regardless of him scoring for Arsenal in pens, like it's completely different. We basically we were about to win the Euros, and he's missed a pen. That would have I reckon he'd think about it weekly. Do you know what I mean? It would have
mm-hmm.
little things that it wouldn't go until something like this happened.
Mm-hmm.
And to like I said, same as Cole Palmer, to have that mentality and the calmness and composure just to slot it and put that to bed now is it's just fair play to him, and especially after the game, he got man of the match, I think, didn't he, Saka?
Yeah, as deserved. He was very good in the first half. He scored that great goal in the second half to get things back level, and then he dispatched a pen. Like, that's a perfect game, really, as good as a game can be for him personally. And like you said, the Euros thing, he scored a lot of penalties for Arsenal since then,
Yeah,
but
he has.
the Euros thing would always still be in the back of his head, and it would always be a case of even going into this tournament, like, okay, we might get in a shootout. Do I take one? Do I not take one? Well, like, all of that stuff would have been running through his mind. So for him personally, obviously, you got to credit the mental strength and that to go and dispatch it and that. But for his own sake, being that mentally strong will have helped to almost put all of that to bed, because now he's now this is the memory. This is the fresh memory he has in his head. So he doesn't have to worry about the Euros miss anymore because he's redeemed himself in a way. And yeah, full credit to him for that.
Yeah, and it's interesting when you said like the mentality he'd have going into it. Would he be thinking, "Oh God, there might be a penalty shootout"? I actually think he'll be thinking, "I hope there's a penalty shootout." Do you know what I mean? Because he's that type of person that he wants to put that to bed. He's not trying to
Yeah,
avoid that situation where he could mess up again. I think he'd want it because he knows what he can do and he's got the
that's the
confidence in
difference,
himself.
isn't it, between the ordinary and the really top players? It's the mentality as well. And like you say, for the average person, you might look at it and think, God, like maybe I would not be hoping there's a penalty shootout or whatever. But he genuinely probably is thinking,
Yeah,
bring it on. There's a penalty shootout. I'm stepping up and I'm gonna bury it because I know how good I am at penalties now. And once I've done that, it'll be put to bed the whole Euros miss. So props to him for that.
yeah, and there's a big difference between like I bet a lot of people listening will be like, right, I'd step up and I'd want to take a pen, but when it's in that moment and there is the pressure there, it's just a completely different game, in it.
It's crazy. Like
Yeah,
just think about how it is for us watching it, how it is like them literally stood there, whole stadium frozen, waiting for you, friends, family in the stands, everyone at home watching. Like it's huge. It's as big as it gets doing it for England. It's as big as it gets in a shootout. And yeah, to just go ice cold in those moments and like put all of that out of your head, it takes a lot of mental strength.
yeah, and we touched on a few of the pen takers, but they all looked to you know be without any real fear. So can you
Yeah,
give, like you said, they're all penalty takers for their clubs, which I actually think is more important than how their form is. Do you know what I mean? You want
absolutely.
someone who's just used to taking penalties in actual like pressure situations, and
Yeah.
also on the day wants to take the pen as well. That's always a big thing. I think like you shouldn't just go with, let's say Harry Kane don't look like he's up to it. Not saying he would, but
Mm-hmm.
that's how he's feeling on the day at that moment is more important than whether he scored 10 of his last 10. Do you not agree?
Yeah, yeah. Because like if someone's not feeling it,
Yeah,
that's probably a sign that you should stay away from them because at the end of the day, you've got I think in a shootout, you've got to, no one's like buzzing to be in a shootout, but you've got to go for the players that are confident and think, yep, I'm going to put my hands up and take the responsibility and score. So I definitely agree. It's a mixture of both, but definitely having the pen takers, because you look at someone like Akanji who stepped up for them first,
mm,
obviously top player, and I assume in training he's been dispatching pens or like it's not random that he's just gone up first, is it?
yeah,
But like it's so different now in a penalty shootout in front of the whole world basically watching. It's so different. So naturally, the guys that do it for their clubs regularly are probably better equipped to deal with that pressure situation. Although this will be more pressure, they have dealt with similar pressure. Saka's taken some big penalties for Arsenal in
yeah.
big games against City, against Liverpool, against Spurs, like Chelsea. So I know it's still not quite the Euros, but it's still the same thing of everyone's frozen, everyone's waiting to watch you, and you have to score. So I guess there's no better prep for a Euro shootout than taking penalties for your team.
Yeah, exactly that. You got the next best thing. Do you think
Yeah.
Southgate deserves some credit for that in terms of how maybe like everyone knows the atmosphere he builds within the team, sort of trying to take the pressures off the players because they look like they were playing without fear, really, especially with the penalties.
Yeah, you got to give credit to him. Look, he's come under a lot of criticism, but at the end of the day, that's the third time he's gone past. He's either gone to the semis or past the semis in
Yeah,
major tournaments in like what 5 tournaments or something like that. You do have to give him credit because it's not been done before in any recent times with England. He must be doing something right at this point. You know what I mean? Like so, you've got to like as much as people want to criticize him early on when things aren't going well. When things are going well, you also got to give him his respect.
yeah, 100% agree, mate. And let's go on to more of the tactics of the game
Mm.
and our shape, our performance. Obviously, we changed the formation, three at the back.
Yeah.
Sort of had Bellingham and Foden both in the tens. Do you think it worked better?
There seemed to be more balance, definitely. Seemed to cause Switzerland problems,
Yeah,
definitely. Like I feel like in the other games we've kind of coasted through. There was never a moment where we looked at a player and thought he's got his man. Let's give him the ball or let's be dangerous. And I think, especially in that first half, Saka was our outlet, very dangerous out there. They didn't know what to do. They were leaving him 1v1. Eventually, they've got to try and double up on him. That creates space for Foden and Bellingham inside and stuff like that. I feel like this system managed to get the best out of those set of players, because one thing that's actually interesting is we're all waiting to see what he was going to do. Other than Gay, who had to come out, he didn't change any of the players.
Nah.
So it wasn't like a change in personnel. It was literally just same players, let's change the shape, and it got them ticking more. So, you know, that's from a tactical standpoint, that's what good management's about. Is he hasn't done anything, he hasn't changed the players, he hasn't brought anyone in. He's just found a system that gets the best out of those 11
and gets the best players in the positions they need to be in, really.
Yeah, and, because even playing Saka on right wing back, I think everyone kind of assumed he was going to play left wing back. Trent or Trips would play right wing back, but then even putting him on the right meant that it was more natural for him. He stayed high and he ended up playing basically right wing, which is where he plays week in, week out for Arsenal. Perhaps if you chucked him on the left, it would be a bit different. So you've got to give credit to Southgate, because the natural thing to do when you're playing wing backs is put a left-footed wing back on the left and a right-footed wing back on the right. So even that little tweak, like small things like that, sometimes make a big difference.
Yeah, I thought it did really help. Like even with Walker as the right centre back instead of right back, it sort of simplifies his game on the ball, where he don't have to. Almost, it's just safer for him. Like he's making safer decisions where he don't lose the ball as much, and then we can use his pace defensively, like we know he can do. Gives Trippier more space out on the left wing back, I thought, where he doesn't really. The option isn't there to always open up on your left foot and play down the line. You want him to play in and give him that space all to himself, really. So I thought it worked really well.
Especially because in that system you actually have the players inside the pitch. No one's on his left side when he's playing left wing back. Like you've got Bellingham in the 10, Foden in the 10, plus the centre midfielders. There's actually no one for him to open up to really and play that ball. So it makes his job easier as well. So it got the best out of those set of players. Literally simple as that.
Yeah, and in terms of Saka as well, like you mentioned, he something that England have been lacking, I think, in this tournament, and what he showed, he took the game by the scruff of the neck, really. It's the first time I've really seen someone take it into their own hands and just think, like, even with his goal, like, he could have easily...
just set it off to someone.
Just set it to someone, pass and move. Do you know what I mean? He could have just laid the ball off to one of the midfielders or Harry Kane.
Yeah. It's credit to him. It's credit to him, but it's also massively credit to the gaffer again for finding a system that enables him to do that. Because if you look at the other games, he's just got two man up behind him as soon as he gets the ball whenever. And it's like people will just simply look at a game after and think Saka didn't take anyone on or whatever. It's like you can't receive the ball with two men behind you and try and take them on. You just lose the ball every time and it looks poor. Like, and he's a reliable player. He takes risks when he can, when he's facing someone up and we've seen what he can do, but he's not just doing stupid things on the ball, trying to take unnecessary risks. So I think the system got the best out of him. It actually enabled him to get the ball high and wide facing his opponent. And then we saw the best out of him. You know, yes, credit to him absolutely for taking advantage of that. But I just think sometimes players get so much criticism when it's not always their fault. Like you can't, like, I don't know. People, apart from like Messi in his prime, the game isn't that simple. You can't just get the ball and decide that, okay, I'm going to go through three players today and score. Like it just doesn't work like that.
Yeah. Football is a game of like tiny margins and the smallest little tactical differences in a game of the other team's formation, your formation, where you're receiving the ball, where your teammates are to you. Like it can, the matter of like a yard, half a yard can just completely change how successful and easy it can be for you on the pitch. Do you know what I mean? Like that's people. I don't think people realize how much these little differences and little tactics can just make a game look completely different. Like it can be night and day. Like you said, if there's even with goals, like there's ones that let's say hit the post and missed. If that's half an inch to the left or right, or the goal, and it can change, and all of a sudden the game changes. Like it's the same with formations and tactics. I think so. It's something people definitely overlook.
100%. It's a game of such small margins, and I feel like people's reactions to a game are so different depending on those margins. Like Just imagine that Saka's goals hit the inside of the post and gone in. Let's say it just hit the outside of the post and went out and England lost 1-0. The reactions wouldn't be that England played well yesterday with the exact same game. It would just be like, Southgate, get out. He's he hasn't managed to get the best out of
The subs didn't work.
Player, and the subs didn't work and everything. That's how it would be. And look, at the end of the day, it's a game of results. So I do understand why you're judged on your results. Like, it's as simple as that. But it is of the smallest margins. Like, the smallest margins determine the result.
Yeah, it's mad. Like you said, like now people are saying Saka's had a really, really great game. He took the game by the scruff of the neck.
Yeah.
The subs worked really well. But like you said, if that shot was 2-3 inches to the left, all of a sudden the subs didn't work well. Why have we played this formation? Saka didn't really show up. Like, what? England are poor. That is literally how it will go. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. It is.
Right. We'll speak about the subs actually, because they were all. I think they were all on the left hand side, weren't they? They were basically left centre half off, left wing back off, and then left of the 10. I believe, was that right? Eze, Luke Shaw,
yeah, Foden as well.
Yeah. So I mean,
Foden was a bit later. Foden was in extra time.
A bit later.
Yeah.
But we scored 2 minutes after the group of subs. Yeah. I'm pretty sure, wasn't it? So did they work in your opinion? They obviously made an impact.
They definitely made an impact. This was my only criticism of Gareth yesterday. When I was watching, I felt like a sub needed to happen before Switzerland even scored, because I felt like the game was drifting into their favour. I think first half England were the better team, and then they came out strong in the second, but then Switzerland started to get a hold of the game, and I thought, if you let the game just go like this, it's either it goes 0-0 into 90 or whatever, or Switzerland are going to score. And I felt like we needed to almost try and keep that momentum from the first half going, like regain that momentum. And I thought some sort of attacking sub, because we have the options. There's so many options. You've got Tony and Watkins as strikers. Yeah. You've got Eze and Palmer as attacking midfielders. You've got all these players that you can bring. There's no one that you're looking at and thinking, it's not a team where you're looking at and thinking, right, this 11's all we got. Like, if these lot can't do it, there's no one on the bench. We have them options. So I did think Southgate should have made an earlier change to perhaps take the game to them and maybe get the first goal, and then see if you can win that game 1-0. Don't get me wrong, in hindsight, it's worked. What he did worked in the end, and you've got to give him credit for that. But again, it comes back to the small margins. You still have to think, what if Saka's shot just hit the post and came out, and then we didn't find another goal? Like, would we then be saying, no, his subs worked still? Like, I don't believe in analyzing a game purely on the outcome. I also think you've got to think, if you want to win games long term,
I agree.
You've got to think, okay, but this could have happened. How can we make sure next game we actually guarantee this win? You don't want to go off the luck of small margins too often.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree with that more so in club football and season football as well.
I agree.
Yeah, because like with tournaments, we know like England are getting scrutinised for their poor performances, but tournament football it very rarely produces an entertaining 90 minutes. It can look back and seem entertaining because it goes extra time and penalties, but
and there's moments sometimes. There's also moments, like big moments. Like you think of the Slovakia game, it's a dead game, but Jude comes and does that, and it's like, we'll look back on that, and that game will be so memorable because of that. The game was dead, but that. And even yesterday, it's tight. So absolutely, and you watch all the games, the build-up's more exciting than the actual games. Like, I remember Friday, everyone was talking about Spain, Germany, France, Portugal. By the time it was half-time in the France-Portugal game, everyone was like, this is dead. Yeah. But that's tournament football. It's not an England thing. That's tournament football. It's high-level football. It's very tactical. And it's almost like a tight boxing match where everyone's just trying to not get knocked out. So yeah, you're right. And it definitely applies more in club football, because in club football, you've got 38 games over a season. You're not going to win a title by getting lucky every game. You need to find a system that basically guarantees you win games. Whereas in tournament football, it's literally, can you just win the game? And it doesn't matter how you win the game. You just get through. So I do agree. I just think semi-finals against Netherlands, we could find ourselves in like the 0-0 situation after 60 is very common. It's very common. Like,
So yeah,
if
pretty much
you
most
wanted
games,
to
isn't it?
play bets, you would say that we there's a high chance that 60 minutes against the Netherlands will be 0-0, just because it's tight. And it's how can you impact the game so that we come out of the right side, go and win the game 1-0, rather than risk losing it 1-0.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a theme of Southgate with his late subs. I know what you're saying though. Like you don't want to react to it. Just do it before it's happened and force what should happen. You know, force what you want. But I also think, like you said, it's common that it will be 0-0 at 60 minutes, and we've seen with a lot of previous winners that it's like we just said, they scrape through games, barely scoring, winning on pens. So for me, it's more about, especially at this stage, it's more about the mentality and the togetherness of the team, and
Definitely.
to know when it's like when it is boring and when something's not going right, or you do go 1-0 down with 20 to go. It's having the mentality to know you can get back and know we don't need to be playing well, because when no one really plays like, you're not going to play like you play for your clubs. So it's really
No.
just it's that togetherness, and then you can build momentum like we've done really well. I think we've always, game to game, have always been slightly on the upward trajectory. I think.
Yeah, you're bang on. And look, we're never going to change the English fans or the English media, but I do think it is a bit of a shame that we pile on so much pressure and so much negativity for not playing unreal football. Like,
Yeah,
apart from the Brazilian teams that won World Cups, or like, it's never been a thing where like guys come to tournaments and just rip it apart, and guys are scoring braces and hat tricks and worldies from all. Like, it just doesn't happen. You get in, you don't concede as the number one. You're hard to score against, and then you have guys that can produce moments, like a Bellingham in the last game, like a Saka yesterday. And England are full of them. Foden hasn't produced a moment yet. Like, but that, do you know what I mean? In the semi-final, you're still looking at it as like that could be Foden's day to produce a moment. Kane's got a couple goals, but still that kind of big moment, he can produce a moment. You've got guys off the bench, so like England are full of those players that can produce a moment. And I think guys just need to understand the nature of tournament football. It's going to be tight. It's going to be edgy. It's about being hard to beat and having guys that, like you said, it's about the mentality. Producing moments comes from the mentality of the players. It comes from them knowing that, okay, we're not playing the best, but I just need the ball about 20 yards from goal, and that's enough for me to get half a yard and score. And that's what Saka did yesterday. Bellingham the other day, he just needed the ball to drop in the box anyhow near him, and he's going to put that in the back of the net.
Yeah,
that's a mentality thing, and we've got enough of those players. So just keep being hard to beat, and you've got the players that can scrape out a win 1-0, or like score a last minute equalizer to bring it to penalties or whatever. So I think, I know there's so much negativity after the group stages and stuff, but I genuinely said at the time, look, they're top of the group first and foremost, which means the draw will be better. And they're moving, they're getting through.
yeah.
So it doesn't really matter how you do it. Look at the French. They've been favourites from day dot with England. And we know how good they are at winning tournaments. They've been less convincing than England, by the way.
They've been poor, man. They've scored one goal from open play,
but they've conceded no goals from open play. Do you know what I mean? So it's like it's still not luck. As much as people might look at that and say you're doing nothing, it's not easy to score 0 goals from open play. So that's the foundation they're building on. And until you're able, like, Spain have been better than them this tournament, right? There's no doubt about that. But Spain will have a hard time beating France. I would not be surprised at all if France go and win that game 1-0 or whatever. And it's like a dead game, and everyone's like, Spain bopped it, this and that. But France are hard to beat.
Yeah.
So I feel like Southgate's replicating that in a way. And look, if you win the tournament, no one's going to look back and think about how you played. No one's ever going to do that. It's just you've got to the end and won, and that's what it's about.
It's true, and the blueprint's there to win tournaments like this. You see with Portugal, they done the same as what pretty much England and France are doing now. Like
it was even worse than that, but yeah, it was worse. Yeah, it was worse. Like,
And Spain get the hype as well. They're playing really good, and they're getting the results as well. But it's the fact that they're playing good in the 90 minutes as well and looking good, and they're playing more club football, as we'd say. That's why people are thinking, right.
That's what's exciting everyone. But I genuinely look, they could win it, obviously. Yeah, everyone's 2 games away from winning it, but I can see them going out to France. Like,
I can see it, mate.
and the tournament just being done there. Do you know what I mean? Because it's at the end of the day, that's not what wins you tournaments unless you're unreal. Like the Spanish team that was winning stuff in 2008, 10, 12, they were a joke. Do you know? So it was actually
Their
like
level of players was just so much better than the
that's what
rest
I'm saying. It
altogether.
was just a joke. So like there's those teams and the old Brazilian teams and stuff. They were levels above everyone else, so they could just play that football and win because you couldn't get the ball off them.
Yeah.
But in the current predicament, the Spanish team ain't head and shoulders better than everyone else. They're just playing nicer football. Is that enough? Not necessarily. And I think everyone just wants England to do that. But I'd take this and get to a semis, get to a finals every tournament, then play some mad exciting football and just be out. Like, you see Germany, they were playing good football.
Yeah.
You conceded 2 goals in a game. Like, you can't do that in at this stage of the tournament. You can't concede 2 goals in a game and try and go through.
No, yeah, mate, you're spot on. There's one thing that's got to be in your mind. It's got to be winning games, and you need to sometimes put pride. I don't know if it's pride, but maybe the way you want to play and the way you want to look aside, and think about the outcome, which is what France are the best at.
Yeah, I was speaking to someone about it the other day, literally about France. I was like their gaffer does not care about how they look because it's been like that for the past few tournaments. He does not care how they look. He's just like, we're gonna win. We're gonna be so hard to beat, and then we've got players in the moments that can get us goals. And whether you like it or not, we're gonna go through. And everyone's talking about how they're playing this tournament because, to be fair, it's probably the worst they've looked. Like they usually look a bit better, especially when Pogba was there and stuff. Like they look better than that. This is as bad as they look, but they're moving.
Look
so
they are.
Yeah. I'd take their position over the guys that went out in the last 16 playing nice football.
Yeah, exactly that. Right, I just want to go back a little bit on the mentality because I heard someone say this. I think it was last night, this morning, to do with Jude Bellingham, and I don't know if you've watched the Michael Jordan documentary.
Yeah.
But he basically sort of created a scenario in his head where he had everyone against him. Do you know what I mean? Like the media against him, the players are talking shit about him. Even if they weren't, he'd sort of create this in his head to have someone to go up against and prove someone wrong. I feel like that's what Jude Bellingham is doing with the media, like, or with the outside noise. It's not been that much on him, is it? It's not been that everyone's sort of half raving about him still. But he's almost like proving a point to everyone every time he does something, and you can tell he's got something in his mind where he's like, right, fuck you. Do you know what I mean? Every time he does well. Do you think that's what he's doing something similar?
I saw that as well. I think it's a little bit like that because he's probably got the least criticism out of all the big players. Like every single game I've seen, Kane needs to come off. Kane needs to be benched. Watkins needs to start toning. Like Kane's getting a lot of stick.
Outrageous, by the way.
It's outrageous. But do you know what I mean? Someone can have that career that he's had, just scored 40 goals this season, and he's getting told that he needs to be benched. He's the captain in that. So Kane's getting a lot. Saka, up until yesterday, he was getting told he needs to play left back. Like there's a lot of players in there that are getting a lot more heat than Jude has. And up until the third game, no one was saying anything about Jude because obviously he scored in the first game. The second game he went missing against Denmark. No one was talking about him. The third game he went missing again, and I think that's when noise started. But it's not that much noise. So perhaps it's a little bit of like a look. He's an absolute mentality monster. Like that's shown, that's proven. At 20 years or 21 years of age, the way he moves on the pitch, it's not just about pure ability. It's up there, and he's a mentality monster. There's no doubt about it. And he probably is using that to fuel him in a way, to give him an edge. And look, I remember in that documentary, Michael Jordan was basically talking about you do whatever you need to do to get in a frame of mind where you perform, basically.
Yeah.
And if that's what he's doing, fair play to him. Like if that can give him an edge on the pitch, I think critics are always there. Unfortunately, they're always going to be there. So if you can find a way to use that as a player, use that to your advantage, then that is. But I think I'm really impressed by that because it's so easy to get put down by it, and so many players get put down by it. They hide in their shell because it's not nice. It's not nice to, and you can't get away with it now that it's social media. I think 20 years ago, it was all back pages, right? On the newspapers. So it's like, okay, cool, just don't buy the newspaper. Tell all your friends, don't tell me what's on the newspaper. And that's it. That's all. But now you actually can't get away with it. They're all got social media. Unless you literally, like, I don't know, don't have a phone, which none of them are going to go to them extremes, you're going to be seeing some of the things that are said about you. So, you know, if you can find the best way to use that to still perform, then I think that's really efficient.
Yeah. And I think doing something like that, creating them scenarios where you need something, you need to prove to someone in your head, or you need to show everyone in your head. I think that can take you to a different level. But 100%. I think it takes you to a different level for producing moments. Do you know what I mean? Like Jude Bellingham does.
Yeah.
I do think something can sometimes have the other impact for sort of the rest of the game. Do you know what I mean?
Possibly.
Like,
yeah,
probably. It's not. If you're a Declan Rice, a midfielder who needs to get the game going and ticking, I don't think that's a good mentality to have, really. Because it's not. You need to sort of be in the opposite state of mind, in my opinion. But tournament football, which is perfect, higher up the pitch when you're going to be the person producing these moments, I think that's a great mentality to have. Like, it can pay dividends, as we've seen.
What you said is spot on, and I remember. I don't know if you remember Schmeichel, I think it was, talking about the Ramsdale Reyes situation, where he said he thought that what Arteta's doing isn't right for the goalkeepers because they play a position where they have to react to what's happening. They can't take the game to anyone. And creating this situation where both of them feel like they have to prove something isn't productive for a goalkeeper. It might be for a striker who feels like he needs to produce a moment, not necessarily for a goalkeeper. And you're right. If a Rice decided to listen to that, to what's being said about him and decided, cool, I'm going to start taking the game to people, he'd probably get caught on the ball in a position where he shouldn't be caught and cost us. Like I think same with like a centre half, like depending on where you play, that you actually probably cannot behave like that. You actually have to just play your game, play the game how it needs to be played. But for a guy that needs to produce moments, for those moments, it can be productive. It can be it will be productive because in those 9 minutes, you're thinking, like this is the chance now to show these guys, and you can see with the like, just look at his celebration the other day. Like it was literally, there we go. Like, you know what I mean? It wasn't like a just pure elation at the moment. Like everyone else is just absolutely going nuts because
first thing on his mind, isn't it?
You've scored an overhead kick last minute. Everyone's going crazy, but his is literally you can see it. It was literally there we go. Who else?
Yeah, that's what he's basically saying.
And if it works for him, it works. And we've seen it work for the best. Like Ronaldo was someone in his prime, very similar. It was always the chip on his shoulder, always trying to, because there was so much messy talk. It was always like no, I'm going to show you guys that I'm better and stuff. Michael Jordan, again, just like that. So if he can replicate that in a way that makes it productive to his team and to himself, then I'm all for it.
Yeah. And there's always, obviously, for other positions, like we said, like Rice, there's always times where you need to flick it, like switch that mindset on, I think maybe during games, but it's definitely not one to like have going into it. I remember, I think it was the 2011 Champions League final where the Barcelona team said they got shown, before the match, they got shown like a 10-15 minute video of their journey there. And like some of the players are in tears and stuff like that. This was before going out. And the first 10-15 minutes of the game, they said they were shit, basically. Like they weren't playing properly. And then once they got that sort of emotion cleared and they started just going back to neutral, they just started like just absolutely dominating the game, basically. So it doesn't work.
It really depends.
Scenarios.
Yeah, it really depends. And you could argue that it works for Bellingham in terms of producing moments, but then maybe it's hindering his overall performances because his overall performances have not been great. I think he was better yesterday. I think, but overall, like other than yesterday, the rest of his tournaments have been 2 goals, literally, and not much else. So perhaps it's that, but then perhaps it's literally what we were saying earlier about tournament football is just not that exciting, and it's very difficult for players to replicate what they do for their clubs. When you play for your clubs, these guys play for, Madrid, City, Arsenal. You're the best team in your league or one of the best teams in your league. And it's like everyone gives you the respect. It's almost attack the defense. And it's like you guys will eventually crack open the opposition team.
Yeah.
Tournament football, everyone's going for it. You play Slovakia didn't until they scored. Slovakia were going for it. Do you know what I mean? Like the other game, it was literally just two teams trying to win a game. Yesterday, as good as England were, Switzerland weren't just saying no. We're going to sit back and like everyone goes for it. So it's just harder. I think it's the level so high. Like even you put England's favourites, France's favourites, Spain's favourites, but then you go and play a Switzerland. The difference in levels isn't that high. It's still the best people in that country playing for them.
Yeah, he's mad, mate. He's mad, and I completely agree. We'll go on to we're playing who? We're playing the Netherlands in the semis. So we're playing the Netherlands.
Yeah.
Would you, going into that game, do you think we need to change anything? Would you go back to the back four? Obviously, we got Mark Gay coming back, or would you stick with the formation we played against Switzerland?
I think there'd be no reason to go to a back four. Like tactically, the Netherlands won't be so different to Switzerland, and also it's about us and what works. You've got to be thinking also about what works for you, and it worked yesterday. It looked a lot better, and it would only get better, hopefully. Like in terms of that, they've played it once now and it worked. You'd assume you play it twice, it'd be better because just the relationships would be better on the pitch and stuff. So I would go for the same shape. Yeah. Now the biggest question would be: does Mark Gay come back in, or does Konsa keep his place? And it's like that's a tough decision for Southgate because Konsa was very good yesterday.
I think Gay comes back in.
That's what I was going to say. I think Gay comes back in just because he hasn't done anything to lose his shirt at all, has he? Like
he's been one of our best players up until
and that suspension wasn't like a stupid thing he's done. Like I think Trippier gave him a hospital pass, and then he's had to make that foul. So it's like you can't punish him for that. I do think Gay comes back in because as much as Konsa played really well one game, it is one game. Gay has played well for 4 games, and it's like okay, so he'll probably come back into the exact same left centre back role, and I don't see anything else changing.
The only thing I think I'm not too sure whether he might go back is because back to the back four is because when we were going into the Switzerland game, he was talking a lot about like how Switzerland's tactics and the way they set up is quite difficult, poses a lot of challenges. So maybe
he's done it for that.
Yeah, like he's done it for that. And I've not watched too much of Netherlands. I know they're very like front foot attacking. So I'm not sure if they're too similar to Switzerland or not, really. Like,
the only thing I'd say is because the personnel didn't change.
Yeah.
He has the option of starting with whichever and adjusting as and when. Do you know what I mean? Like he could start with a back four and 20 minutes in, shift it round. He could start with a back three and 20 minutes in, shift it round. So I think that's a big strength for the fact that he's only just changed the formation without the personnel. Like he can adapt to what's happening. He might use that to his advantage in that game if he's not 100% sure what to start with. So yeah,
I'd like to see him stay with the back three. To be fair,
100%. I think it just looks so much more fluid how England played yesterday. Like I'd go as far as saying we should have scored in that first half. And that's the first time in the tournament where we've done anything where I'm like we should have scored. Other than that, I know there was no one really got in the end of any of Saka's crosses and stuff, but perhaps with a bit of sharper movement, more anticipation, he done enough in that first half for someone to put a ball in the back of the net and us go ahead. And I can't remember throughout the other 3 or 4 games us ever being in those scenarios where someone's done something and you're like, that could have been a goal. We didn't really.
No, mate, we ain't.
Didn't really do anything. Yeah. So is that like? Do you stick with that? Naturally, I'd say you would. You stick with what's working.
And Netherlands have been they have been a threat like going forwards. They've had good players in good form. Depay's been playing decent. Gakpo's looked good as well.
Yeah.
I was just thinking if we do stick with the back three, Konsa, it might actually be a shout keeping him because he does float between sort of a full back and centre half, doesn't he? So the wide of the back three may be a perfect position for him, and he might have something over Gehi there. I'm not sure.
He actually might. Just because, like you said, he has played fullback for even Villa as well and stuff like that. So it might suit him better. But yeah, it's something for Southgate to think about. Knowing Southgate, I think he will just resort to Mark Gay. I think he's very loyal to his players, which is why this tournament, everyone's been crying for different changes, and he hasn't really changed anything. And I respect that as a manager. You've got to trust your players. Like, it can't be a thing where like a player has a poor game and it's like, like let's forget the reason we picked him in the first place.
Yeah.
Like you do have to have a level of trust with your players and know that you picked them for a reason, not because of temporary feelings or not because you're flipping coins. You've picked them because you know what they can do and you back them to produce. So,
and that comes across in his late subs as well, almost saying, I trust these players, give them the time.
I think he really trusts them to get the job done until he really gets forced to make a sub.
Yeah, of course. So for you, obviously we've spoke about what you think he'll do. For you, it's just keep the same team, same, the back three or back five, however you want to look at it, and the same team as Switzerland.
I'd get Gay back in, but other than that,
Gay back in, yeah.
Yeah. Other than that, same shape and same team.
Yeah, I agree, mate. I'd get Gay back in and keep the same shape. What's your predictions? We'll finish off with our predictions for the game, semi-final.
Ooh, I'm going to be optimistic and go 2-1 England.
2-1 in 90 minutes?
Over 120.
2-1. That's what I think it's going to be 1-1. And then I'm going to go 2-1 in extra time.
I wanted to be optimistic. That's why I said 2-1, but I can see it going 1-1 or something all the way to pens again or something like that.
Yeah.
But I'm going to go 2-1 England.
2-1 England. Yeah, I'm going to go exactly the same, mate. 1-1. I'm going to go Harry Kane.
Early extra time goal. Yeah.
And then last, I'm going to go probably a Palmer one. Palmer, come on, get the goal. Yeah.
That'd be nice. You definitely wouldn't question Harry Kane being dropped.
Nah, man. I wouldn't sit right with me dropping him, man. It just wouldn't.
Yeah.
Like dropping someone who's the best. He's the best goal scorer pretty much in the world. He's not on bad form. Like, he's not like he's on bad form.
He's really not.
That's record season.
Yeah. He's. I agree with you. I just obviously there's a lot of talks. I thought let's see what is said about it.
Well, what are you going to get? What you're going to get from? I think it's more like the system isn't requiring him to do so much because we've got players around him to do all that other stuff, like all the build up, everything like that.
Yeah.
He doesn't.
The system requires him to stay high. The only thing I think is perhaps if Watkins was playing, he'd cause a bit more trouble because staying high and trying to get him behind and stuff is more suited to his game. But I just don't see that being. I just don't think you can do it because Kane is just like we're talking about decent Prem strikers, top end Prem strikers versus versus a world class striker.
Yeah,
Tony and Watkins are both top Premier League strikers. Kane is a world class striker who plays in the Champions League, who plays for Bayern Munich, who's just come off 40 goals. He scored 2 goals in this tournament. Do you know what I mean? It's not. We've seen how hard it is to score goals. Like he scored 2 goals from open play in this tournament, so it's not like he's just done nothing. He scored the winner the other day. But people are too
who forget about that because of Jude.
Forgetful. People, because that game was Jude. And then secondly, people that don't necessarily understand the game want to see wow moments, and the game's not requiring anything wild at the minute. It's requiring him to stay high, occupy the 2 centre halves, and be patient. And if a chance comes, he's burying it. Do you know what I mean? Like that's at the end of the day, that's what it is. Who'd you back most in the tournament to bury a chance, a half chance? It's Harry Kane, let alone for England.
That's one of the things he's definitely got over the other boys. Like, regardless of how much he's getting involved, when the chance falls to him, I know he's missed like a couple that maybe he could have scored. You'd want Harry Kane on it.
But like, even them, it's only because it's him we're saying that. Like anyone else, you're like, oh, that's a tough chance. It's only because it's him, and we genuinely think he can turn any quarter chance into a goal. That's the only reason you might hold him to such high standards. But he's got that over anyone in the team and probably in the tournament, where it's like, anything in the box, who do you want on the end of that? It's him.
He's also got something a different level in his mentality, I think, to the other boys, and especially that's what you want. Like we spoke about loads with tournament football, as he gets in extra time, he's got the mentality to almost similar to Jude Bellingham, to produce the moment and want to produce the moment and have that in his head.
Yeah, he's 30, so he's experienced and he's been. for 10 years playing for England and you know, at the top end of football. It's not someone that's just come out now. So even from that perspective, he's got that over all the other competition. So it's not
I
even
think
a
it's funny
question
that
for
we
me.
even have to have this conversation. Like, do you know what I mean? Like the
I
fact
think
that people have
you
even been saying it.
you get forced into it every tournament. It seems like I've had this conversation with people since, you know, the last Euros. Do you remember the last Euros where he didn't score until the Germany game?
Yeah,
I
it was
think
Sterling
the
scoring,
Germany
wasn't
game. Yeah, and the same kind of questions and stuff. But look, luckily, it's not people on social media that pick teams. Luckily,
it?
it's
Yeah.
someone who, despite all the criticism, understands the game, isn't reactionary or emotional, and has done very decent for England in recent years.
Yeah, exactly that. So our predictions though were 2-1 each. We've earned obviously to win in extra time. What were your thoughts on the? We'll finish off with the France. Who is it? France and Spain
France,
game.
Spain. I think France win 1-0.
Yeah. What in 90?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I think it's a 1-1 penalties. France win on pens. Can see Spain scoring, to be fair.
No, Spain are good enough. Like if anyone's good enough, it could be Spain, but no one's looked like scoring against France in any of the games. Like I know Ronaldo's you know, past it now, but he's still not poor. But
Does that hurt you to
Saliba and
say?
that game. Nah. If I would have preferred him to retire a few years ago. It would save him a lot of the stick he's getting now. Like he's 39. Like there's no shame in being well past your best at 39.
Yeah, it's mad, isn't it?
You know, he's got an elite mentality where he still wants to perform, still wants to be good, and that's up to him. But like, yes, he's still decent enough. It's just because he gets compared to his prime that he gets so much criticism. But against Saliba, it was like he was playing just exactly what he did to Lukaku, exactly what he did to Ronaldo. He can do that to anyone. It's like playing against a child. We know that because we watch Arsenal every week, so it's no surprises. But yeah, against that defense, it's very hard to score.
Yeah, mate. They are ridiculous. Right, Ken, we'll leave it there, mate. We'll see how they get on. England are playing on Wednesday, and France are playing on Tuesday. So let's see how they get on, and hopefully we can get the job done.